Around 80 AD, a man named Epictetus was teaching philosophy in a small stone room in Nicopolis, northern Greece. His leg had been broken deliberately by his former master. He had owned nothing for most of his life. He had been legally property. If you have ever felt like your circumstances are the reason you cannot be free, the situation at work, the relationship you're trapped in, the anxiety that follows you everywhere, if you have ever said, "I would be better if things were different," this video is going to challenge that. By the end, you will have one question. The question Epictetus asked every student who walked into his school thinking their circumstances were the problem. The answer will be uncomfortable. It will also set you free. The slave taught the empire how to be free, and his definition of freedom is the most radical idea in this entire series. Epictetus was born into slavery in Hierapolis, Phrygia, modern-day Turkey, around 50 AD. His master in Rome was Epictetus, himself a freedman who had become one of Nero's secretaries. A man who had been freed and became someone who owned slaves. The philosophy of Epictetus begins with a distinction so simple it sounds almost too simple. Some things are in our power, some things are not. That's it. That is the entire Stoic philosophy reduced to its foundation. In our power, opinions, impulses, desires, aversions. Not in our power, body, reputation, property, and everything else. When Epictetus was enslaved, his body was not in his power. His master could command his hands, his location, his time, his labor. His opinions were entirely his own. His judgments were entirely his own. His character was entirely his own. This is not a comfortable philosophy. This is a philosophy tested against the hardest possible version of the question, what remains when everything is taken? Epictetus answered this question not with words, with his life. Epictetus never wrote a word. His student, Arrian, took notes. The lectures became the discourses. Arrian also compiled a short summary, the Enchiridion, the handbook. It opens with the most important sentence in Stoic philosophy. Some things are in our power, and others are not. Everything that follows in the Enchiridion is the application of this one sentence to every situation a human being faces. Death, not in your power. How you face death, entirely yours. Reputation, not in your power. How you act when your reputation is attacked, entirely yours. Other people's behavior, not in your power. Your response to it, entirely yours. The poverty that was forced on him, the lameness that was inflicted on him, the slavery that was imposed on him, none of it his power. His response to all of it, which was to become the most free person in the Roman Empire, entirely his. The Enchiridion is not a comfort, it is a demand. It demands that you stop using what is not in your power as the reason you are not free. 5 teachings from Epictetus, each one tested against his own life before he ever offered it to anyone else. Teaching 1. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. He practiced this for his entire enslaved life before he ever said it to a student. Teaching 2. People are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of things. His leg was broken. The pain was real. His view of the breaking, "I told you so," then continuing. Teaching 3. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Amor Fati, 400 years before Nietzsche named it. Teaching 4. No man is free who is not master of himself. The slave made this the most precise definition of freedom available. He had seen both kinds of slavery, the external and the internal. The internal is harder to escape. Teaching 5. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. He said this to wealthy Roman students who arrived thinking they knew everything and left understanding they had barely started. Epictetus's question for you is not comfortable, but here is exactly where it lands in your life. Anxiety. You are anxious about something you cannot control. What your boss thinks, what might happen, whether the thing you fear will arrive. Epictetus, the outcome is not in your power. Your response to the outcome is. Every hour you spend anxious about the outcome is an hour stolen from the only domain where you are actually free. Stop paying that tax. Discipline. You cannot make yourself do the work, not because you lack willpower, because you have made the work contingent on feeling like doing it. Feeling like it is not in your power. Doing it is. Separate the two. Career. You are waiting for the right conditions before you start the thing. Epictetus was in slavery. He was in chains. He started the philosophy anyway, because starting was in his power. The conditions were not. Relationships. Someone in your life is behaving in ways that are damaging you. Their behavior not in your power. Your decision about whether to remain in proximity to it entirely yours. The question Epictetus asks, what are you enslaved by that has nothing to do with your circumstances? Sit with that. Not for long enough to answer honestly. The honest answer is the beginning of freedom. He proved it with his leg, with his life. Epictetus died around 135 AD. He owned almost nothing. He left no writings. He left the most complete proof available that the philosophy he taught was not theory. Marcus Aurelius read Epictetus and wrote about him in the Meditations with something that reads like reverence. The emperor revered the former slave, not because of what Epictetus owned, because of what he could not be made to lose. Subscribe. Up next, Seneca, the wealthiest Stoic, the most honest about the contradiction, and the man who died better than he lived.